Hi there, everyone. This is Janet Gershen-Siegel again, and this is Module 3 of the social media course at Quinnipiac University. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about mapping my network, and I'm going to go straight to PowerPoint for that. And what we have here is I wanted to talk about Facebook, because Facebook is probably for pretty much everybody, the place where most of the world, our little subworlds collide. And so here we have me. This is my my little Facebook avatar these days. Now, I want to harken back to the first video that I had done, because I was talking about 4 separate areas and that I normally look at online and work for online. And so each quadrant is going to talk about one of those 4 areas. So the first one in my network is work, basically, and this is essentially my search for work, really. So we have able to know up in the upper corner, because I do work there, and below that is also other colleagues. So this is people who I've worked with in all sorts of other capacities in other places. I have done a lot of different things, and without getting into the specifics here, but I've got colleagues who are on Facebook who are everywhere from folks who I knew from working at Fidelity to working at Dictaphone, which is now Nuance, and also tons and tons of people from Able to Know. But Able to Know isn't just people who I work with, it's also people who I work for, because it's a community site. Now, the second quadrant is fitness, and that's sort of health fitness kind of thing. And I'm putting my family into this area, not because they're necessarily such fitness mavens, although some of them are. It was kind of, this is sort of a, I guess this is more of a friendship togetherness kind of a thing for me. And also Boston looms rather large here, because I'm not a native. I'm actually from further south. I was born in New Jersey, and I lived in New York for several years. So my living in Boston has only happened since, on a full-time permanent basis, since 1995, although I attended undergraduate here. But I've got friends who are from college, and I've got friends who are from the area. And the other thing is, worlds do collide, because a lot of Able to Know people are from Boston or the Boston area, so they are connected in with this group as well. Now, my next quadrant is community management. Now, you would think that Able to Know would go in here, but I was trying to make a nice, neat slide for you folks. But what does go in here is both Star Trek and camp and high school, because I do run Facebook pages for both a small Star Trek community, and for the summer camp that I attended when I was in high school, when I was a teenager. And I also contribute to various communities online on Facebook that are devoted to either Trek in its various incarnations, or my high school. I'm members of there's groups not just for the high school in general, but also for your various graduating classes, and I'm members of not only my own graduating class, which I will confess it was 1979, but also I'm a member of, like, my brother's graduating class. So there's kind of some overlap also to the family fitness kind of group here. And the last quadrant is writing, and community management kind of runs in there, and of course community management also spills over into the work area because of Able to Know, because it's both. But of course community management is mostly done through writing, because this is a written medium. Forums are a written medium, and of course under that is my publishing aspirations, where I'm trying to publish a book, or possibly more than one. Now, the question was also whether there are subgroups, and of course there are, and the thing is, every single one of these overlaps. My family group, these tend to be people who I didn't really know very well, who I would see at various outings and whatever, but you never really get a chance to talk much because everybody's applauding or looking at the bride or whatever. And so I've actually gotten to know a lot of my cousins a lot better, and it's a generational thing, because these tend to be my second cousins, people who I have one set of great-grandparents with, as opposed to first cousins who are a lot closer in age to me and who tend to not be on Facebook quite so much. I'm sort of an outlier because I'm a bit in the middle of the generations. And then the Boston crowd, kind of spills over into camp, because camp was in Maine, and there are people who are from Boston who attended camp in Maine. Excuse me. My high school group also kind of breaks down to people who are a little more, who maybe I was closer friends with when I was in high school. It was a graduating class of 400, and certainly I wasn't friends with every single person there. One of the things about having been a high school graduate for over 30 years is that a lot of the people who you weren't that close to can sometimes turn into people who you become close to, and vice versa. And that is exactly what has happened in the last 3 decades. So there are definitely subgroups. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the connectors, and and mavens, and the salespeople, the promoters, but that's also going to kind of answer some of the other questions here. So that, for example, under the work area, I'm putting Robert. Robert, I'm listing him as a maven, but the truth is he's a lot of things. He is the guy who started Able to Know. So there's your question. It's who started the network, and it was him. He was the guy who contacted me in August of 2002 and said, I feel like teaching myself PHP and create a forums website, but I don't really feel like dealing with the people. Do you want to run a website? So his role was as Maven. He is he's the main developer, and my role became actually key connector. So I kind of fell into that, and also I fell into the promoter area as well, particularly as we were getting started. His role has changed considerably, mainly because he's become much more of a paid developer. And Able to Know is a labor of love, and it's done for free. So he has to spend his time wisely, just like everybody else. He doesn't get to play online quite as much as he would like, and that's unfortunate because I do kind of miss him. Anyway, my next group, let's find that, is let's go to fitness, and this is Kathy Sfera. Kathy and I know each other from sparkpeople.com, where she runs a group, and now I run other groups that she's belonged to. So we kind of, a lot of this cross-pollinates. She's also a Boston area person. She happens to live in Stowe. She's a big-time fitness person. She runs half marathons, and she's becoming much more of a maven. She is attempting to get more of a to get a personal trainer business off the ground. So she's actually sort of converting herself into a maven, which is pretty neat to see. On the community management side, this is Jerry Wendell. Jerry and I know each other. We know each other actually from the Examiner. I don't know if anybody here has seen the Examiner online, which is I think it's the San Francisco Examiner, and that was it still exists. It's a newspaper where you can write for them. You do this, they ostensibly pay you, but man, it's not a lot of money. And she and I were both writing for it. I was writing about weight loss, actually, so I was trying to be a fitness maven, and she was writing about I think it was dog training at the time, and we became friends. And she branched off from that, and now she runs a group online. It's not just on Facebook. She's actually got a pretty decent Google Plus presence, and it's called Groovy Reflections, which is sort of the music and the photographs and the fashions and the culture of a very specific time period, which generally is defined as the 60s to about the mid to late 70s. And anyway, her role, I think, is more promoter than anything else, where she is she's trying to get a business off the ground to see if she can make a go of it, make some money with it. At this point, she's doing things like selling tie-dye shirts and whatnot. And in my last quadrant, this is Terry Lynn Shull. Terry Lynn, or Shull, actually, she is one of the hosts of the G&T Show, which is a podcast that I listen to. It happens to be a Star Trek podcast that I listen to, so here's another bit of cross-pollination. But she is absolutely a key connector. This is somebody that I have known her from Star Trek since, I want to say, 2004. We have known each other from various online incarnations. She's a fan fiction writer. I'm a fan fiction writer, so we both know each other from that. I know her also because Her forums are one of the places where I submit fiction. She submits fiction to other forums that I'm a member of that I'm not running. So she kind of crosses all sorts of areas and all sorts of genres, and so I really put her into my key connector bucket, and I hope that that's readable, because I just realized it's a little the contrast isn't so great on the background. Now, what specifically is the network? Are these networks centered around? Well, I think I've kind of answered those questions. Some of them, it's extraordinarily specific, such as Star Trek, or a camp that I went to, which never had more than maybe 35 people in it any one year. So we're talking about, and this camp only existed from 1979 to 1975, excuse me, to 1978. So this is a group of people that numbers less than 400 at the most. And so it's an extraordinarily specific group of people. Boston certainly is much bigger. It's a more generalized kind of experience that people have had together, just simply existing within generally the same space. Able to Know, on the other hand, is a very large non-specific Q&A website, so there isn't something quite so specific that it's centered around, except for what was talked about in the readings, which is one of the reasons why people like to connect, which is helping each other. We like to connect because we want to kind of show off for each other, which is a lot of the writing. We also want to connect because we just want to have human contact, and that's the community management. We want to impart information to each other, which tends to be fitness, and we also want to help each other, which tends to be able to know. Where do these networks succeed in communicating? Where do they fail? Able to Know succeeds in the sense that it is very large. It's become rather large. It's not just the two of us. It's 200, however many thousand, 100,000 people. And so in that sense, it's succeeding. However, the cadre of regular users really hasn't changed very much, really hasn't gotten much bigger. I don't think that there's anything really wrong with that, because after all, one thing that is said in the readings is that most people can't really keep up a good close relationship with more than about 150 people. So that figure actually kind of works. But it also does fail because, like any other forum, there's often miscommunications and misunderstandings because people don't really understand tone. How do communications with people talking about camp or high school, how did those fail? Well, we've just all been out for so long that half the time somebody tries to friend me, it's from high school, and I take a look at the name and I say, oh my God, I have no idea who the heck that is. And even if I go in and I look at my yearbook and I hunt and I hunt and I hunt, I still can't figure out who the heck they are, particularly if it's a woman who's not using her maiden name and doesn't list it anywhere in her profile. And perhaps that's a fault of our own mental software, but that there's maybe not quite so much clarity. So there are some areas where this doesn't quite work, but we all do our best. Anyway, this is my network, and oh, there I am, hello. And so that's just Facebook, and of course I post in a lot of other places and go to a lot of other places, but that's kind of the main thing about like I said, what is great about Facebook is you sort of have all these worlds colliding. And as you can see, I have tons of worlds in it, and I was probably way too generic in talking about some of them just to try to get them to fit on the slide. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I will, this is Janet Gershen-Siegel, and I will talk to you soon, and I'm really glad to, and I'm happy and interested to see what you've got. Thanks, bye-bye.